As we begin this autumn series, let me tell you what's coming up after tonight. On the 7th of October, we have Jill Strahan, and she's got a new book out on boundaries and border crossings on lesbian life. Some of you will remember her when she was directing Chaws here on the Hill. So this is her new book. On November 12th, we have Melissa Ho, who's going to be talking about a forecast on our food system. And especially with the tariff question, this has become a much more exciting topic than you would have thought when we scheduled this last spring. And then on December 2, we have Farah Karen Cooper, who's the new director at the Folger. She's not going to be talking about the Folger. She is going to be talking about her own research work in Shakespeare and various communities of people as represented in the Shakespeare plays. So that's the fall season of Village Voices, and we're hoping that you'll be with us for all of those occasions. Let me also thank, of course, Mary Bloodworth, without whom we would never get on the web and we would never keep the connection going, I promise you. Judy Berman, of course, the director of the Village, without whom none of this would happen. And of course, Karen Stuck and Majin Daniels, who do the advertising for us. We are using a recording tonight, so we can put this on our own website and YouTube channel. Several people have told me they can't be here tonight. They want to watch the recording, and that will be possible in a few days when it gets loaded. Finally, we suggest that you use the chat function to put questions and comments as the speaker goes along. If you think you're going to forget by the end of the talk, just put them in the chat. Mary and I will both be watching that. We'll make sure we get back to you and your comments and questions at the end of the speaker. Now, our speaker tonight is Astrid de Vries, and the topic is Haiti. And if you read yesterday's Washington Post, the headline said, "New U.S. plan offers hope for Haiti." And we've had hope for Haiti for a long time. But Astrid de Vries is actually trying to bring hope to Haiti in a very concrete, responsible way. She's Dutch, actually studied business, I believe. In 1998, she decided she was going to volunteer at an orphanage in Haiti, if I have the story correctly, and it changed her life. She spent 20 years as our neighbor on Capitol Hill. She has just moved to the Dominican Republic next door to Haiti, where she runs a service called Kids Connection Haiti for pathways to education and support for children coming out of orphanages. We're pleased to have her. We admire anyone who is willing to work in Haiti. And Astrid, the Zoom room is yours.
Thank you so much. I feel very honored and excited to be here. Thank you everybody for joining and for inviting me to give the presentation about Kids Connection Haiti. And I want to give a special shout out to my old neighbor, Carol Loecki. I see you, Carol, and I can't wait to see you soon. And so thank you for joining. I didn't know that my old neighbor would be here. So that's fun for me. I'm going to share my screen. I have lots of pictures and I would love to answer all your questions afterwards. I'm going to tell a little bit about about myself, about the organization, and I'm going to throw in some success stories throughout the presentation so that you will learn what we do and how we do that in Haiti. So let me see if I can share. There we go. Can everybody see this beautiful young lady? Yes, okay. This is Katja. Um, I met Katja in 2017. I was in Haiti with a group of 50 students of Kids Connection Haiti. We were preparing for a community service on a farm. Everybody was very excited. It was a busy day. And one of the students introduced me to Katja and said, Katja needs help. And I said, I'm busy, we are full, we can't help anymore. And but they convinced me to listen to her story. So I said, okay, I'll give you a couple of minutes, but then I have to move on with my day. So Katja and I sat down and she told me in very short her life story that at the age of 12 in 2010, she lost both her parents in the devastating earthquake. Ever since that year, she had been wandering the streets, never knowing if she would find food, where she would end up sleeping, or what would happen to her. And they were terrifying years for her. And as she was talking about her life, there was no emotion in her face. And I I heard her, but I was already so overwhelmed with all the other kids that I was working with. So I said, Katja, what do you want? And then she looked at me and she said, I just want to be normal. I want to go to school like all the kids of my age. Still, this story gives me goosebumps. This is so typical of where our kids come from. So when she said that, I said, okay, come join us for the day. And she hung out with us during the community service at the farm. And at the end of the day, you could see the sparkles back in her eye and hanging, just doing fun things with peers of her own age and being a young woman who could enjoy a day of fun. And so she entered our program. She was able to finish high school, then she did trade school, and now she is the mom of a 1 year old child, and she has her own little micro business at home, and she is financially sustainable. So, this is one of the girls that I'm very, very proud of, and I'm so blessed that she was in our program and that we could help her get out of the misery that her life was before Kids Connection Haiti. So I went to Haiti in 1998 um, to do volunteer work for an orphanage. I was convinced that it was going to be just 1 year because I wanted that experience. I wanted to help the poor. And I so loved it that I ended up staying for 5 years in Haiti, and I continued my professional career working for Haiti, both in Haiti and abroad in more of a fundraising role. On the left picture, you can see me with a girl, Christina, who was at the orphanage. She was abandoned by her parents, and not because they didn't love her, but because they were so very poor and Christina was sick, they couldn't take care of her medical needs and they had a lot of other children. And so they abandoned her, and Christina grew up at the orphanage. And this is a story of many, many children in Haiti. At that time, there were 730 orphanages in Haiti. During all those years, I started getting to know a lot of kids and older youth. And I noticed that after they had left the orphanage, many of them were struggling to get by. They weren't ready. They didn't have a diploma. They didn't have a network. They didn't have a home, no work experience. So it was incredibly difficult for those kids to get their lives on track by themselves. And I started helping some of them with a small effort. Like I helped them start a micro business with a little bit of money or finish trade school. And those kids were the inspiration of Kids Connection Haiti. And on the right picture, you see myself in the middle of a group of students that was probably in 2018. And Katja is also on that picture, actually. So when I started Kids Connection Haiti, This was the question that I always asked myself. Imagine what would you do if you didn't have your parents, if you didn't grow up in a safe household where there was always food on the table, where my parents paid for my education, they always welcomed me back home. If I wouldn't have had that solid background, that solid family life, what would I have done? And I really don't have an answer to that question. And I think that is the question that we ask ourselves at Kids Connection Haiti all the time. Those kids come from such dangerous, unstable, and lonely backgrounds. They don't have anywhere else to go but us. And so we try to do our best to offer them the services so that they can become ultimately financially independent through education. Why Haiti? It's probably pretty obvious that Haiti is a very, very poor country. More than 60% of the population lives in poverty, and right now it's way more than that. These numbers are probably 4 or 5 years old. Um, Most of the people in Haiti are poor, and many of them are not educated because education costs money, even public education. Even if it's not expensive, when you only have a couple of dollars for food, you cannot pay for your school. So that's why most of, especially the older generation, never finished elementary school, and even the younger generation, most didn't go to high school or didn't finish high school. In addition to those problems, the country is, as we all know, extremely unstable politically, economically, and socially. And it's also vulnerable to frequent natural disasters like the earthquake in 2010. But there's always hurricanes, earthquakes, floodings in Haiti that makes life really challenging. This is a normal little street in Haiti, how a lot of the people in the capital live. Very basic, very, very poor. The earthquake in 2010, as you may remember, was devastating. I arrived in Haiti just a couple days after the earthquake, and everything was destroyed. All the buildings were in rubble. I didn't recognize anything. More than 300,000 people died, and 1.5 million people became homeless. So everybody that I met on the street at that time had lost somebody. Everybody had lost their homes. And this was around the time that I started Kids Connection Haiti. So we had even more need for young adults to be helped to continue with their educational career. Even now, 15 years later, you can still see the effect of the earthquake a little bit. However, the biggest problem, as it has been in the news several times, are the gangs. The political situation in Haiti is extremely complicated, but this is the biggest problem in the country right now, and especially in the capital. 94% of the capital, Port-au-Prince, is terrorized by the gangs. That means that they are in control of all the neighborhoods. And so all the people in the capital live in fear every single day. There's a lot of violence, and because of the gang's power, there's very little food because the food from the countryside can't come into the city. Nobody can come in or out. So there's food scarcity, there's a lot of violence, and everybody is living in fear. But their lives don't stop. They have to continue because they have nowhere to go. So they have to get up in the morning and go to work or go to school, even in such a situation. So on the news, we always see all the misery, all the terrible things that are happening in Haiti. But from experience, and almost everybody who goes to Haiti will tell you that Haiti is breathtakingly beautiful. The beaches, the oceans, the mountains, the lakes, the architecture, like you see in the little picture here, the special way of building the homes. and but also art. Haiti has incredible artists who make beautiful paintings, and their music is just amazing. And the people, of course, are amazing as well. They're very positive and fun. Like you talk with a Haitian person on the street, and within a minute, they are smiling and they're welcoming. And it's just such a beautiful country. And I think it's really important to say that it's not just only misery in Haiti. Haiti is much more than that. So, um, we have about 100 students under our wing right now. And even though the original mission was to offer post-orphanage services, it changed a little bit over the years. So right now, a lot of our students don't come from orphanages, but some have experienced homelessness or abusive situations, or they come from very poor households. For example, a single parent, usually a mom, with a lot of children and no work. So they're just very, very poor, living in a slum, and they can't go to school. And that's why they come to us for help. Um, we also offer housing to some of our kids. When I say kids, by the way, I'm talking about young adults. They're all between 18 and 25 years old, but I call them kids because that's what they are in my eyes. But they're young adults. So we also offer them some practical support like housing. And this particular girls' house is very special. And I quickly want to talk about that. In Haiti, there is a phenomenon that's called reste avec. That comes from the French word rester avec, meaning to stay with. Basically, in Haiti, that means you're a child slave. What happens is that girls, but also boys from very, very poor backgrounds, they're given up by their parents and given to wealthier families, thinking, so their parents are thinking that the girls will receive an education and a better life in those new families. But what happens, in fact, is that those young people, and usually they're very, very young, are being abused physically, sexually, emotionally, and they're just taken in so that they can do the heavy, dirty work for the family. They don't go to school and they don't get treated very well. It's usually a horrible life. And the saddest part is that it's super difficult to get out because they don't have anybody else. Like their parents gave them up. So if they can get out of the situation, they can come into our program. We offer them a safe house with other girls who have experienced similar situations. They can, get rest and prepare for school, finish school, and then we help them also to become financially independent. And we offer them a lot of emotional support as well, because as you can imagine, they're extremely traumatized. But I must say, all the students in our program are traumatized because everybody is abandoned. They've seen death, they've seen violence, they live in fear. So there's a lot of trauma in all of the students, not just this group of Restavec people that are in our program. So to summarize, this is our mission statement. We want to empower at-risk young adults in Haiti to become contributing, self-sufficient members within their communities through education, life skills training, community service, mentorship, and career development. And it makes me, but especially the students, very happy to be part of this program because they experience much more than just going to school. And I will tell you a little bit more about what we offer. Um, so the core mission, education, high school, trade school, university, so general education, of course, we pay for that. They live with their family if they have family, or they live in one of our houses and they go to school. They all go to different schools. We pay for that. But you can't be successful just because you go to school, you have to have some life skills. And because most of the kids don't come from a stable family, they haven't really learned life skills when they were growing up. Many of them have never had one on one time with an educated adult. Because if you live at an orphanage, you share your house maybe with 16 other girls or boys and one lady who is responsible. Or if you come from extreme poverty, your mom is so busy and cannot read or write and trying to deal with all the poverty and all the children, there's not a lot of time for life skills that in Western countries, you often it's normal. Like I learned a lot from my parents just by being with them, going on walks with them, having dinner with them. A lot of our kids don't have that experience. So we offer life skills workshops and also career development workshops um, and professional orientation workshops, internships, community service, and as I mentioned before, practical supports like housing, food, and medical services, including eye care and dental care. STARS is the umbrella name. It stands for Skills and Training to Achieve Real Success. And stars include life skills, what I just talked about, career development workshops where they learn how to apply for jobs, how to network, how to prepare for an interview, all those kind of skills. Then we have professional orientation where it's sort of a course where we invite a lot of different professionals from a variety of fields and they talk to our students about their profession so that the kids can learn what is out there, how is it to be a plumber or a lawyer or an IT repair person. So that's professional orientation is very helpful before they choose a trade so that they know what they're choosing. And then we also offer catch-up classes because the education in Haiti is not very good, and especially in those difficult times. And the graduation rate is extremely low. In Port-au-Prince, it's about 40 to 45%. So we offer catch-up classes to our seniors so that they're well prepared for their finals. And we have a 99% graduation rate. So that's incredibly high for Haiti. And then we're also starting to offer special education for kids who are even more far behind if they need psychologists or social work or maybe even private teachers. Community service is mandatory. And it's one of my favorite aspects of the program, and it's definitely the favorite activity for our students because they get to hang out together and do something useful, and it's just a lot of fun. And but why is it mandatory? Because we believe that our young men and women need to experience that it doesn't matter how poor you are, you can always help somebody else. And it's such an uplifting experience for them, and it's great for their self esteem. And it's a little bit of work experience and teamwork. And so, overall, that's a huge aspect to their joy of being in Kids Connection Haiti. Unfortunately, with all the violence and the gangs, we can't do it monthly anymore, which we used to do. But now, whenever there's an opportunity, we do it. So they may go out to paint an orphanage, like you can see at the picture, or they can rebuild the roofs or replace roofs on houses that are leaking, or they go with a group to an area where disaster has struck, for example, flooding, and they bring supplies to help the people, the victims of the natural disasters. So myself and Jennifer Starr, who's also on this Zoom call, work in the US. Well, actually, I'm now in the Dominican Republic, but I was in the US. And in the US, we don't have any other employees, but we do have a board of directors and volunteers. So an active board of directors and volunteers. And we are very grateful for their support. Everybody has a specific role. So we have somebody for social media, somebody who helps us with legal issues or other, or with our IT problems. So that's super helpful, and we're very, very grateful for that. But our main people are the team members in Haiti. So in Haiti, we have a group of currently, I think, 8 local Haitians who run the program, and they do a fantastic job. And we are so impressed and so grateful for them. They lead the program, they work with the students individually. And the beauty of it all is that 7 out of the 8 staff members in Haiti, they're actually former students. For example, our country director, Jackson, he entered Kids Connection Haiti in 2010 in the first group, and he was studying community development. And we were so impressed with his skills and his um, brilliance and his leadership capabilities that after he finished university, we asked him to do an internship with us that turned into a job as a student coordinator. And after so many years later, he's now our wonderful country director, and he's a great leader. And he's also starting a new program in the north of the country where it's less violent, so it's more peaceful there. And this year we hope to start a new program in Cape Haitian, where he is located right now. But all of our staff members are wonderful. And the good thing about them being former students is that they understand exactly what are the challenges and the needs of our students. So they're the best to help our students on their path to a better future. Here's another success story. My girl, Gisela, I met her when she was about 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old, at the orphanage in 1998. And she was new. And I remember seeing her going through the trash cans, and she was eating the rubbish from the trash cans because she didn't know that there would be 3 meals for her every day, because where she came from, they had to survive from begging on the streets. She was living with her grandmother on the streets, and that's how they survived, by just by begging for food. So when her grandma died, she moved into the orphanage, but she didn't know there was such a thing as structured meals throughout the day. So I have that memory very vividly. And then, of course, she got into the routine, and she had a wonderful youth at the orphanage. And when she turned 18, she left the orphanage and she asked if she could join Kids Connection Haiti. She was a very good student, which, by the way, is not a requirement. Not all our students are very academically very strong, but Jesula was. And she studied diplomacy. And after she finished, she found a job and she's working for an international organization. So that's a beautiful circle of a poor girl getting out of poverty and now helping other poor people get better lives. And she's the mom of 2 girls, I believe, and she is completely financially independent. Redore on this picture is another example. He is actually the student who introduced me to Katja, the woman from the very first slide. And he also lost his parents in the earthquake. He wanted to study sociology, which he did for a little bit through our program, but the school closed. And then he decided to go to the police academy, because as a policeman, you always have work. He finished police academy, and then he became a policeman, and he worked for the Coast Guard for several years. And with the money that he earned, he was able to start a shop. So he has a shop now at home. He did Coast Guard on the side for a long time, but I believe that that's currently not possible because of all the violence and the gangs. But he is financially independent and taking care of his own family, which is the objective, the ultimate objective of Kids Connection Haiti. As I mentioned before, we also take care of the medical needs for our students. The people in Haiti don't have medical insurance, and the medical system is very poor. Most clinics and hospitals have closed over the last 5 years, and most doctors, nurses, and other specialists have fled the country because are at a huge risk of being kidnapped. So, finding medical care is very difficult and it's very expensive. We named our health fund after Lourdia Xavier on the picture. She is a girl that I knew from the orphanage in 1998 with the polka dot T-shirt. And after the orphanage, she also entered Kids Connection Haiti and studied the National Academy of Diplomacy and Consular Affairs. And she did very well at school. And after that, she organized for herself an internship at the UN in New York, where she had a fabulous time. And after she was very successful there as well. And after that half year, she came back to Haiti, found a job for the organization that she had lived with as a child. She became one of their administrators. But sadly, in 2020, early COVID, we heard the heartbreaking news that she had died from a disease that's very common in Haiti, which is sickle cell anemia. And to honor her, and because we know that healthcare is extremely important for our students, we started the health fund and we named it after our beautiful Lourdia. So to recap all this, over the years, since 2010, we've had over 400 young adults graduate from our program. So that means they all left with a high school diploma and with a trade or even with a university degree. Most kids don't go to university, but there are some exceptions that they're maybe a little bit younger and on track and academically super strong. So then they could go to university, but most of them go to trade school. And so right now we have about 100 students, about 30, I forgot to mention earlier when I talked about STARS, the Life Skills Program. We offer that program also to an orphanage. So 30 young adults at an orphanage are also benefiting from our STARS program and learning the life skills and the career development. And so from the 100 students that we serve at the moment, there's about 70 for whom we provide education and all the other services, and 30 in that orphanage. But I have to say, we have 70 on the list, but this is a very stressful time for us, the beginning of the school year. And with all the expenses that we had last year, with people being evacuated and fleeing their homes and extremely high healthcare expenses, we don't have the money right now to send everybody back to school. So we're in the middle of a campaign, a back to school campaign, and we hope to raise enough funds so that everybody can go to school if we find sponsors for everybody. If we don't, that means that some student may have to be put on hold and they're going to have to wait a year before they can continue with their education. But it's worth it because, as I said, 99% graduation rate, that is extremely high for Haiti, and we have a very high employment rate as well. So even though sometimes it's so overwhelming and sometimes I think, oh, I can't do this anymore, it's too complicated, it's so worth it because we are transforming their lives and they are able to building stronger futures and rebuilding their communities and taking care of their own families, and their children will be better off because they will have an education. So this is the end of my presentation. I feel very blessed to do this work. I'm very lucky that I can do that with the help of so many hundreds of people who support the program from the United States and from Europe to help us help those beautiful young souls succeed in life. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Kids Connection Haiti, and I would love to answer any questions if there are any. And also, if you are interested in learning more, the website is written on this slide, kidsconnectionhaiti.org. And thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Astrid. That was just fantastic. And we all learned an enormous amount. Um, Let me start the questions with how do you choose what students to help? With the mass number of people who need help, how do you get down to that core?
We don't recruit people, so there's no marketing. It's all people who find us. Um, and if one of our students has a sibling, we give sibling priority. And then if somebody applies to be in our program, we have an interview. So we look at their situation. Are they really poor? Are they really orphans? Are they really motivated to go to school? Can we help them? Because some may be hopeless, even in our eyes. And if we have no vision for that person, let's say somebody who has never attended school, we don't know how to help that person. So we really look at a couple of like their age, their background, those kind of things. And some years we have, most years actually, we have a waiting list. So it's not easy, but we just try to not having to say no. We look at who needs it the most and fits the profile of our students.
That is amazing. Uh, Patricia Malumbi has a question for you. She says, once students graduate, do any of them leave Haiti?
Yes, that is not our goal, but I totally understand it. If you have to live in a situation where you're constantly afraid and where there's so much violence and the threat of violence, of course you want to leave. So some have the opportunity. They may have like an uncle or a friend living in the United States or in Chile or in Brazil, and they go. And um, good for them. I hope they can build better lives there, safe and stable and loving. But when they go to another country, they're also struggling because then you start all over. It's not easy to find a job if you come from this situation, even if you have a diploma from Haiti, you still end up working probably in a job that you would not have chosen for yourself. So it happens, but the huge majority of our group, they don't have the means to leave. They don't have any money, and they also don't have a passport. And so it's complicated, but it happens.
Mhm, mhm. Um, Lots of reports have been made of people being pushed back into Haiti from across the Dominican Republic border. Has that affected your program at all?
No, not the program, but it is really happening. And I see that with my own eyes. Living in the Dominican Republic, there's a lot of Haitian communities, and sadly, they're suppressed here too. They don't dare to leave their little communities because the government is very strict and they just come in at night and arrest people and deport them. So that's yeah, it happens here, but it has not affected our program.
Uh, Don Nelson wants to know, do you get any U.S. government grants?
No, we have never received any US government grants for a variety of reasons. Our program is relatively small and our budget is also relatively small. Um, for the government grants, you usually have to have certain things in place, like an annual audit, for example, which costs thousands of dollars. But our budget wasn't quite that big that we could justify hiring an auditor every year. There's other requirements, like Kids Connection Haiti is registered in the United States, so we can fundraise and we can function legally. We're not registered in Haiti because we're not an orphanage, we're not a school, we're not a hospital. We just provide services to individuals independently. So we don't have to be registered, even though we're in the process of being registered in Haiti. It's super complicated with the government being so corrupt and changing all the time. But that is also one of the requirements for USAID grants. And the other thing is, because our budget is so small, they don't really do, like, they wouldn't give a grant the size of your entire budget. So I think proportionally, it would be very difficult to get a grant from USAID, for example.
Mhm, mhm. With the gang situation, what do you see looking forward?
Ooh, that is such a difficult question. I can't lose hope because my students are not losing hope. But it is overwhelming. The gangs are so powerful and they have so many weapons. They have more weapons than the police force and the little bit of military force that Haiti has. There are some ideas, like now the US has proposed to the UN to come in with another 5,500 troops, I believe. Peace is really the main thing that needs to happen right now. And Haiti can't do that alone. So this is my opinion. There
Mhm.
may be people who think differently. There may be Haitian people who say, well, we need to do this by ourselves, but it seems that they're not succeeding. So I believe they need help from foreign forces, and it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be fast. But if I hope it happens this generation.
Because there have been international interventions before that have not worked out so well, if I recall. UN came in after the earthquake, for example, and led to a cholera outbreak, if I remember right.
Yes, that is correct. Yes. Yeah. And it's always very complicated. When the UN came in after the earthquake, they helped keep the peace in the streets. And they did a lot of logistical, like infrastructure support. But also there were bad things happening. So, that there's no excuse for that.
Hmm. Hmm. Other questions out there? I don't see hands raised. Mary,
Oh,
do
I actually have one. Given the scope of need in Haiti, how do you keep your mission focused, and not have what they call mission creep?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was talking with a donor this weekend about that. He said, well, why don't you start working, doing this and this and this? It's tempting, but I've always tried to be very focused. Like, our core mission is education, and I believe education is the way out of poverty, because if the people are not educated, they don't even know what the government is doing or how they can help themselves. So education and the healthcare is extremely important. So we keep our eye on the education, and also, as I said, like, the people, they can't stop their lives. They live in the middle of it. So they need to get up in the morning. They need to do what, live their daily lives. So we really focus on that. But we have For example, our medical expenses have like really skyrocketed, housing. That's not part of the core mission, but we can't help them become successful without good health or without safe housing. So it kind of goes together, but it's always, education is always at the core of our mission.
Mm-hmm. How do you work with the Haitian government, which you've already described as corrupt?
We don't we don't really work with them. We are approved by the IBSR, that's like the sort of the social department. We have some former students who work at certain departments at the government or who used to work at certain departments at the government. So we don't really have a lot to do. You know, like the schools, we check if the schools are accredited by the government because that's important if the students look for work. So little things, but we don't really work directly with the government.
And they don't harass you?
No, not at all.
Amazing.
Well, it is because we work with young adults that everybody's 18 and older. If we would be working with younger youth, we would have to be, you know, you get monthly visits from the social work department. You have so many requirements, but our kids, they're all adults. They are, you know, they're supposed to be independent. We just offer the services to them as individuals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other questions from out there? Does your colleague Jennifer want to come into this conversation at all?
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. My name is Jennifer Starr. I'm sorry, I'm having some problems with my camera right now, but I joined Kids Connection Haiti in March. It has been an amazing and wonderful experience. I can see firsthand the incredible work that KCH does for the young adults in Haiti. I have been moved by many things, including Astrid did mention Jackson, and he is so passionate and um, almost brought to tears because of his hope and his belief that all of these students can make a difference and can grow and can make an immense difference for Haiti and for their communities. And I just think it's so touching and so wonderful. And one other thing I wanted to say is yes, some of the students go to the US, but I know of two that have moved to the US and are part of Kids Connection Haiti here. One just joined us as our new treasurer because he got his degree in accounting in Haiti and then he moved over here to the US. And like Astrid said, sometimes they can't be in the position that they want to be in. So we gave him that opportunity. So that's one of the things I love most about Kids Connection Haiti is once you're part of the family, you're always part of the family. And once you get that education and that support, it never goes away. It's not like you're done with the program and then we just let you go and never talk to you again. You're always part of it, and it's so special and it's so wonderful, and I'm just so honored to be part of it.
Sounds like you have a great alumni association, at least in the virtual world. We have a question from Kay Ely asking, do the gangs bother you or your organization?
Yes. um, our, but this is really only the individuals. So as everybody lives in different neighborhoods, It can be that one of our students' neighborhoods is attacked and they have to flee. And sometimes that, so everybody always has to have their bag ready because they may have to run. If the gangs come in and decide to burn down your house, you gotta run. And that has happened several times. Our office has not been bothered by the gangs because we are working very much under the radar. We don't have our logo on the door. There's no foreigners. We're just a little Haitian office. People don't really know that we are an international organization, and we like to keep it like that because that's, we are not very tempting for the gangs to go in and kidnap somebody. However, the orphanage that I was involved with at the beginning of my Haiti career, they just had this awful experience that you might have read in the newspaper. One of my good friends, Gina, and 7 Haitian workers from that orphanage were kidnapped in the month of August and just got released last week. But they're a very, very big organization. Everybody knows them. So they're more a target. A lot of their doctors and like employees have been kidnapped, but we are small and people don't really recognize us as such.
Truly amazing. Truly amazing. Anything else? Any more questions or comments? Well, if not, thank you for an inspiring evening. We're all just delighted you joined us. And everyone, join us again on October 7 when we're going to talk with Jill Strand about border crossing and the lesbian life that she has led. Thank you again, Astrid. What a wonderful job you're doing. We're all impressed.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Astrid.